welcome back to the channel. I'm Rich, and I'm here to give you some good videos from TikTok. And today it's strange, creepy, disturbing TikToks that I found on the internet that are pretty crazy. But I'm gonna jump right to the video. Please subscribe, like, comment. Here we go. We're gonna go ahead and get started.
Powerful people. Is there any truth to that?
My mom thinks there's a conspiracy theory where all the rich dudes get together in a room and they like plot like Inspector Gadget or something. Here's the problem with that theory. They have such big egos, they don't like each other. Elon Musk doesn't like Bill Gates. So there's no universe where those two dudes are at a table. Do you think you become a billionaire without being an extreme narcissist at some level? You are greedy and some level of psychopath. There's a ruthless level to it.
They're wired kind of like serial killers.
Exactly. Serial killers are solo wolves. Warren Buffett comes off as a nice guy, but trust me, this dude will eat your heart out in a negotiation.
I just watched this lady air fry 2 crabs. Let me say that to you again. She seasoned the crabs while they were alive. She air fried these crabs while they were alive. Mind you, the air fryer that you air fried these crabs in was glass, see-through. So you see these crabs losing their life.
Wow.
At least when you put a crab in a pot in the boiling water, you put the top on top of the pot, you can't see what's going on. But you sat there and you recorded everything. Oh, and you don't know what I'm talking about? Look at this shit.
Y'all,
Look
let's
at this
make a
shit right
crab
here.
bowl in the air fryer. Listen, don't
crazy.
knock it till you try it. So first, I had a couple blue crabs. My
Look at
air
these
fryer's kind of
crabs.
small, so I only could
Listen
put like
to
2
these
or 3.
crabs
So I
screaming
went
for
ahead
their
and put
life.
the 2 crabs
Listen.
in the bowl. I was scared, so I was
Listen.
like jumping because they were live.
Oh,
Did
nah.
I mention that?
No.
And then I went ahead and seasoned my blue crabs with some Creole
gonna season them.
seasoning. I added
Listen to
some
them
Old Bay
screaming.
seasoning. And I tell y'all,
This is crazy,
I went
man.
ahead and turned my air fryer on. I believe
This is
$3.95 or $400. I used the fish setting because it didn't have a crab setting.
Because you ain't supposed to make crabs in the air fryer.
Air fried my crabs
Oh,
from
my
now
God.
on.
Look at
I
this
thought
shit
they were
still
going to be
moving.
dried out, but they were perfect. You can see they're still kind of moving.
Yeah, they moving because they scared.
But
I'm out of here.
I did let them.
Mind you, those vegetables you made, that corn, those potatoes and things of that nature, you threw those in the pot. You boiled those. So you couldn't boil those crabs. You had to assassinate those crabs on social media. Why are y'all so crazy? Why did you do this? I don't know where we at in the world right now. This shit is crazy.
Have y'all ever seen that or done that? I've never. Kind of weird to me.
Why is no one talking about the stranded research team in Antarctica that has recently started to attack each other? There is this research team that are in these compounds from 1956. They look like storage container and they are in Antarctica in one of the coldest locations and they are isolated. And they have just begun to basically attack each other. To the point, one of them is sending a distressed email saying they need to remove someone, but they can't because they're trapped. They're isolated. There's no getting out. This team of scientists is trapped at an isolated Antarctica base for 10 months. One of them just attacked and threatened others. They are currently stationed at a remote base in the continent in freezing temperatures and high wind mileage. So apparently one of these motherfuckers went rogue and attacked a fellow colleague. That colleague then sent an email saying that they need to get this man out of here and they are deeply disturbed. That he's also behaving in another deeply disturbing manner. I could tell you stories about what's behind the Antarctic wall and why those researchers are really there. That scientist is going rogue for a reason, and I'm interested to see what happens because they cannot leave or go get them. And what's even crazier is that one who's going rogue is sending out death threats and assaulting the other members. Who's going to tell them that they were the experiment? I am going to be following this story, so follow me.
That sounds pretty crazy. They're losing their mind down there, aren't they?
Determine what state should be, quote, safe from an alien invasion. Number 1, Virginia. Number 2, Alabama. Number 3, Massachusetts. Number 4, New York. Number 5, Minnesota. Number 6, Florida. I'm so glad we're the top 10
Hey, what? Wow. Looks real.
Why is there an Egyptian pyramid in Guatemala? Watch this.
In the Petén region of Guatemala, they have just uncovered a discovery that will change the course of humanity forever. I don't know if you've heard about this, but here you can see them digging, and they come across the top of a pyramid here, and they're kind of speculating of like what it is. And as it gets deeper and deeper, the writing on it, I shouldn't call it writing. It's actually a type of Egyptian writing, an Egyptian
How long has
petroglyphs,
this been
if
there?
you might call it that, but it's not quite
And who
Egyptian.
put it there?
The scientists are calling it a reformed Egyptian because it's a little bit different. But again, this is in Guatemala. This happened last week. These diggers are trying to show us what is on here. You can see now, look, here's photos. It looks like some sort of sarcophagi under there, and then this pyramid next to it. And as they get closer, look at that. It looks like an alien being. They said that all the writing shows that it shows the word for cousin, and then it shows the word for sky. And so it's saying sky cousins. They're about to open the sarcophagi in part 2 of this video, and it is going to blow your mind, the type of bone edge that they find in here and the fleshage that they find throughout the sarcophagi. But I will post that in part 2. First, I want to look at this. Doesn't that look like aliens?
It's not of human origin.
Again, this is like a reformed Egyptian, but it's showing aliens, and apparently it shows the history of the world, but not just for humanity, but for another species that has been living amongst us. Again, this is breaking news. It's going to change the course of humanity forever. I'm going to post in part 2 what we see in that sarcophagi. So
this raises so many questions, y'all. As always, thank you for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. Stay weird.
The Air Force is on record as saying, quote, they want to control the weather by 2025. And we are not talking about just seeding the clouds for rain. Weather modification means, quote, any activity performed with the intention of producing artificial changes in the composition, behavior, or dynamics of the atmosphere, unquote. And as of April this year, there are more than 150 different weather modification programs around the world. Since about 2000, the Department of Defense and the Department of Energy have been spraying the entire United States sky with a toxic brew of chemicals and other biologic agents.
It's crazy. It's wrong.
Just want to show you something. We have 2 different kinds of trails in the sky right now. One are called contrails. How many of you know what contrails are? Contrails would have been around from the ends of planes since World War II. These are very, very short exhaust trails that usually evaporate within a few minutes. You just look up at the sky and you'll just see a jet, sometimes with 4 trails, but it evaporates pretty quickly. How many of you know what chemtrails are? Nobody. The military and some commercial planes are spraying us with what are called chemtrails. I want you to look at and oftentimes before there's a weather front, there are heavy assaults from these planes just before a weather front is changed and comes in. Military and some commercial jets have been fitted with huge barrels of at least 49 different kinds of documented chemical poisons. Among other documented ingredients in this toxic man-made clouds are pathogenic molds, fungi, weaponized viruses, and made in some places like the secret site at Fort Detrick, Maryland, which is supposed to be a cancer site. But there are a number of scholars and professors tracking this that have big questions about this. Barium and nanoaluminum particles. What do these do to the human body? Barium is an alkaline earth mineral. It was discovered in 1774. At low doses, it can act as a muscle stimulant. At high doses, it detrimentally affects the heart and the nervous system. Barium is toxic to all mammals, and that means not just humans. Aluminum, which is the most abundant metal in the Earth's crust, is known to diminish kidney function and destroy brain cells and cognitive function. Just think about it. Just between the aluminum and the mercury that we're breathing all the time, we've got already a serious issue about brain function and cognitive function. There is also documented evidence that the aluminum in chemtrails is released as nanoparticles, and that when they reach the Earth, environment for wildlife. In lakes and streams, it's causing serious problems with wildlife there. Researchers are also finding that nanoparticles interfere with the growth of plants. Nanotechnology is totally unregulated. Just this past month, a new research report came out showing and documenting for the first time that these nanoparticles actually go through the skin. Well, if you breathe them, whether they go through the skin or whether you're inhaling them, it's still a problem, a serious problem.
This excerpt is brought to you by the Massachusetts School of Law.
Just to touch bases on this, me and my son and my wife and everybody has been noticing that the clouds look really strange anymore. And I've been here for 45 years and I've never noticed the things that I'm seeing today. And then these storms coming in. And if you pay attention to the sun and what the sun is doing, there's a big coronal hole that has just started facing Earth. And the other day when it started to face Earth, I started getting real bad headaches and body aches, and man, I felt terrible. And then all these strong storms come in, and there are some weird storms going on right now. And my thoughts are with everybody that has to deal with these storms. It's crazy out here.
All empires are built by blood, sweat, and violence. Adolf Hitler thought he was doing the will of God. In World War I, there was a famous story at the battle in Belgium. He walked out of a hut and Adolf had no gun. And there was a British soldier standing there ready to kill Adolf Hitler. And Adolf Hitler put his hands up and said in English, "No gun." And the guy had a split-second decision. He said, "I couldn't bring myself to kill an unarmed man." So he let him go. Adolf Hitler kept a picture of that man on his wall when he ruled. There was a time when Adolf Hitler basically ruled the world for a short period of time in the 1930s. He kept it and he said, "The will of God." Adolf Hitler would call that guy and try to thank him. That British guy had extreme guilt for the rest of his life. So my point is, even Adolf Hitler didn't see himself as a brutal psychopath. He's like, I gotta do some tough choices to keep Germany, my people, safe.
Look at the size of the building compared to the person. If you guys can see that, I'll try to zoom in right there. Look at that little itty bitty person right there. So that's the size of how large these wood and plaster buildings are made out of. This was all just built overnight. You know, they even built statues like this overnight. That's what they're trying to tell us. I mean, look at this. Looks like Paul Bunyan, or whatever that story was that they made up about Paul Bunyan. But this is just some random guy on a horse, which who really knows who he is? We have some horses, huge statues, which look like they were already here, a guy on a horse. And then also this Native American on his horse, which is interesting. Now here's a great one that's showing of a temporary building. Now let me show you the details of this one. Look at that. Temporary, they say. Even all those windows with archways. Imagine how much time it would take to put every single little window in here and every single little arch and do all of that work by hand. No machinery, no power tools, nothing of, say, what we have today. This would take a long time. I mean, I had a friend who I was watching who built an archway in one of his buildings, and it took a couple days. Well, these archways are about 100 times the size. What's also interesting is look at all those lightning rods up on top. Doesn't seem like they were too afraid of the lightning. That's for sure. Almost seems like they were trying to capture that lightning, kind of like what we've talked about in the past with the old world buildings.
What if the pyramids of Giza are lined up with Orion's belt because it's a marker of an age?
That the three great pyramids of Giza are laid out on the ground in the pattern of the three stars of Orion's belt. And then when we work precession into the equation, we find that they're not laid out in the pattern of Orion's belt as it looked in 2500 BC when the pyramids are supposed to have been built. They're laid out in the pattern of Orion's belt in 10,500 BC, 12,500 years ago. So it's like a marker on the Giza plateau speaking to that age, just as Pillar 43 at Göbekli Tepe speaks to that age when in the astronomical diagram on that pillar.
Which also means that there would have been a line 35,000 years ago as well.
Yeah, that's right. Because it's a cycle.
Yeah.
It goes back.
Wait a second, a marker? Did you know that there are people who believe that the magnetic field moves all the way around this bigger land, melting this ice, this freezes as it goes all the way around in like 26 to 35,000 years? So
these aliens created humanity. Meet the Arcturians. So these guys come from the Arcturus star system, which is one of the brightest stars in the night sky. You can find it in the Boötes constellation, which is only 37 light years from Earth. And here's our sun compared to Arcturus, which is a red giant. Now, people have known about the Arcturians since at least the 1920s, when Edgar Cayce connected with Arcturian consciousness. According to Cayce, they're the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. They're renowned for their intelligence, spiritual wisdom, technology, and healing abilities. And they're also fifth dimensional beings, but they exist in other dimensions as well. And Casey mentioned them more than 30 times in his psychic readings and saw the Arcturus system as a gateway to higher realms of consciousness. And many people believe that the Arcturians are actually the mother species of humanity. They look very similar to us, but they're taller and more slender. They often have blue skin, but can also have a kind of translucent look to them too. Their eyes are almond-shaped, large, dark blue to black. They also have large, elongated heads, and some might even have these crystals embedded in their foreheads. According to people who claim to channel Arcturians, they apparently have these galactic command centers stationed in high orbit above Earth and even underground where they observe humanity. And like the previously mentioned alien species in this series, the Arcturians also follow the cosmic law of one and participate in the Starseed program. If you're an Arcturian Starseed, make sure to leave a comment and follow along for more alien species in this series.
In a twist that no one saw coming, and also probably worthy of like a Netflix special, the guy literally accused of being the Antichrist online just publicly denied it.
I am not the Antichrist, nor do I claim to be the Messiah.
Like, can you imagine being so suspicious that you actually have to publicly announce, hey everyone, look, I'm not the Antichrist, I promise. But he didn't stop there, because in the same video, he pointed directly at someone else and claimed that the real Antichrist is actually this guy. According to this man, the real Antichrist is already here and is staring at us right in the face. So in this video, we're not only going to reveal who Abdullah, aka the guy everyone's calling the Antichrist, is pointing at as the real Antichrist, but by the end of this video, you'll know exactly whether this new accusation holds any weight either. And buckle up, because this one is even like wilder than the previous video. Real quick, if you're new here, I'm Cameron Bertuzzi, and this is Capturing Christianity, where we expose the intellectual side of Christian belief. My aim on this channel is very simple. I want to separate fact from fiction, truth from absurdity. And believe me, there is plenty of absurdity today. If you appreciate the clarity and the depth that we bring to these conversations, consider supporting us over at capturingchristianity.com/donate. I've got that linked in the description. Your support is literally what makes this content possible. All right, let's jump right into unraveling this really bizarre drama. So before we reveal who Abdullah points to as the real Antichrist in his latest video, let's do a quick refresher on who exactly this guy is and the wild, absolutely wild theological claims that he's making about himself, because trust me, like, this is crucial for understanding the absurdity of what's about to happen.
I've heard about this guy, I just haven't heard a lot about this guy, so I'm kind of interested in this one. I hope you are too.
Abdullah Hashem, better known as Abba al-Sadiq, or the father of the truthful, burst onto the religious scene with some incredibly provocative statements. And when I say provocative, I mean statements so bold they would make Joseph Smith look conservative. I mean, just check this out, okay? Here's how Abdullah describes himself in his own words.
I am Abdullah, the successor of Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam, the successor of the Comforter Ahmed, the successor of Simon Peter, the successor of Muhammad, the successor of Jesus Christ. I am the true and legitimate Pope. I am the proof upon the Christians. I am the son of the Muslims through my father, and the son of the Christians and the Jews through my mother.
Yes, this is real. Unfortunately, he's claiming to be not just the successor to Muhammad, but to Jesus Christ himself, somehow. Oh, and then also he's the Pope. Just let that sink in for a second. Now, Abdullah has this really big, weird theory about like succession. And so he bases it on the idea that religious authority moves down through a chain of divinely appointed successors. Okay. But he specifically argues, and this part is especially controversial, that Muhammad was somehow the successor to St. Peter.
Okay, how is it that no one is talking about just in the 20th century, 25 million Christians were executed because of their faith? The 20th century, as in from 1900 to the year 2000. That's like a Holocaust every 25 years. And 25 million is a lot of people. This is Michigan Stadium holding 100,000. 10 of those stadiums is 1 million. 40 of those stadiums is only 4 million. 25 million would be 250 of these stadiums full. Which makes me think the rough estimate of 70 million all time is a deflated number if there was 25 million in just the 20th century. Yet still Christianity is the largest faith and still growing every day. And still to this day, every day more and more Christians are executed just for believing in Jesus Christ. This has been happening since the beginning of time and continues to happen even today. Yet, no one's really talking about it. This is truly an epidemic that people need to talk more about. And people ask, I wonder which religion is the correct one. Probably the one that has endured the most persecution since its inception.
And I find it kind of crazy that you could be persecuted and your life taken away from you over what you believe in. That's pretty disturbing to me.
They've been hiding the true answer to this question from us. Why are these doors and windows halfway in the ground? During the early 19th century, strange events were reported worldwide. Cities were being dug out from layers of mud and debris. Buildings were being revealed that were covered to their rooftops in mud. A global cataclysmic event buried entire civilizations, erasing them from history. But here is where it gets rather unsettling. The Tartarian Empire, an empire often depicted in old maps, was an advanced civilization that existed across Europe and Asia. They built architectural marvels, had access to advanced technology, and were able to harness energy from the atmos. The mud flood, many say, was a deliberate attempt to wipe out Tartaria from history, hiding their advanced technology and knowledge. But it gets even darker. Look at the world's fairs of the late 1800s and early 1900s. These elaborate buildings, resembling ancient architecture, were supposedly built in just a few years. After the fairs, they were supposedly demolished. Was this to erase evidence of an advanced pre-existing civilization? The Chicago World Fair in 1893, the Paris Exposition in 1900, and the St. Louis World Fair in 1904. These events showcased magnificent architecture, and on official papers they were apparently built with plaster and wood. Do these look like temporary structures to you? The sudden disappearance of these architectural marvels raises the question, were they remnants of the Tartarian Empire, conveniently disguised as temporary exhibits and then destroyed to hide their origins?
I don't truly believe in the, oh, it's just wood and plaster or whatever. I really think that those were from a different civilization and we've hid them now. But I do believe that we will figure it all out.
Planets aren't real. Yep, you heard that right. And I have some eye-opening proof. In the Bible, it specifically talks about God creating a firmament over the heavens and the earth. So those space missions to Mars, or even to the moon, or even sending Katy Perry up there to take a gander around, nope. All a lie. So here's where it gets wild. God created the sun, moon, and stars, right? So what are planets? I don't believe that they are just celestial bodies. I believe that the planets are the ruling principalities over the stars. And by ruling principalities, I mean angels. And if you look through a telescope at night at a star, it looks exactly like the Ophanim angels that Ezekiel described in the Bible. And if I had $1 for every single time the Bible described angels as stars, I'd be a really rich gal. And if you think about the planets, you'll start to connect the dots of how each planet name resembles a Greek or Roman god. So in hindsight, the planets are really fallen angels. And it makes sense too, because in Jude 1 verse 6, it talks about the angels leaving their first estates. And that's referring to the fallen angels who fell to live in iniquity and evil. So no, planets are not balls of gas or livable locations like Elon Musk would like to lead you to believe. No. Planets are real entities. And you can see them in the flesh every night when you look up at the sky. And I get a lot of comments from the normies, specifically Christians too, claiming that I'm crazy and heretical for not believing in the heliocentric model of the earth or the globe theory. But the heliocentric model came from the Pythagoreans, who were literal pagans that worshipped Zeus. They literally believed that the sun was the central fire of Zeus, literally his watchtower. And it's getting to the point where even atheists are questioning the narrative of the heliocentric model. So why aren't Christians doing the same thing? Every time, biblical cosmology takes the cake over heliocentrism, not only for accuracy, but also for Christians who believe that God intentionally created this earth. It didn't just happen by accident. So what do you guys think? Drop your comments below and let's start a conversation about this.
What do you think?
On Monday, May 19th, 1986, this question was put to Mr. Jim Maddox, who is the Attorney General of the state of Texas. Quote, "Is it true that the state of Texas owns our children?" Mr. Maddox responded, quote, "Yes, it's true. And not only your children, but you too.
Wow. There's your answer.
How's that for candor? This is the current Attorney General. That's one of my students. He went through one of my classes and he said, I cannot believe that the state owns my children. So I said, well, gee, why don't you go ask your Attorney General? He's the chief trustee for all of the children in the state of Texas, and he did, and he sent me back that affidavit. Now here's a letter from a lady who on August 6, 1985 had twin girls born down in California. Listen to this. As I understand it, this is a letter, by the way, from the Department of Public Health. This lady didn't get birth certificates for her children, and a question arises. Well, if you don't get birth certificates for your children, how is that going to impact those children in the next 10, 20, 30 years? What do you think would happen to somebody who was born and didn't have a birth certificate? Could you imagine such a preposterous circumstance? As I understand it, you gave birth to twin girls on July 30, 31, 1985 at Mercy Medical Center in Redding, California. I also understand from the hospital staff that you did not desire to register the birth of your girls with them at this time. I'm writing to inform you of information that you may be unaware of. According to state regulations, if you don't register your daughter's birth within the first year of their delivery, they would then have to be registered on a delayed registration of birth form, and the cost would be at this time $15. So the first problem that you run into is that if you don't get a birth certificate, it'll cost you $15 later on.
That's crazy.
Well, I would presume that if you went to all of the trouble of delivering the child and then secreting the child out of the hospital and withstanding the incredible intimidation that the doctor and the hospital staff is going to heap upon you for trying to get this child out of here without a birth certificate, that $15 probably wouldn't be that big a deal, would it? Considering the fact that you delivered in a hospital and you had a physician in attendance, this would probably be of no consequence or trouble for you now. But in later years, this may be a problem for your daughters. So when they get to be 20 years old, there could be a problem because they don't have a birth certificate. Can you imagine what kind of problems could arise? I'm sure you're aware of the utmost importance of having a birth certificate as soon as possible. How many of you can think of 5 utmost reasons why you should have a birth certificate as soon as possible? Let the record show, one man raised his hand. He evidently can think of 5. In 20 years, the hospital records could have been destroyed and your physician may not be available to help you or your girls. Now consider the fact that in order to be registered for school, you want to send your children to the public school, got to have a birth certificate. Apply for a marriage license. You want a limited general partnership with a state in control? To do that, you have to have a birth certificate. Grants or scholarships in school, the state of California requires a certified copy of a birth certificate. So if you want to go to the University of California, you want to go to college, you want to get grants or scholarships, you have to have a birth certificate. The federal government requires a certified copy of a birth certificate when applying for military service, a passport, or a social security card. So if you want to register for the draft, if you want to travel on a U.S. passport, many people think that's the only way you can travel, but there's 5 ways to travel, 4 of them without a passport. I travel. I don't have a U.S. passport. Now, if you want to go into the Army, how many of you want to go make the world safe for Standard Oil, Exxon, and Texaco? You've got to have a birth certificate. When you realize all of the times that they may need their certificates of birth, you may want to contact me and we can arrange to have them taken care of. Please contact me if you have any questions.
Thank you, Internet Warlord, for sending me this footage straight
That birth certificate thing is ownership.
out of the Fakery Bakery. Take a look at this. It's a stunning image of the moon's surface. We have some sort of craft flying very close to the moon. We see the moon totally lit up, and we can see these craters We can also see the Earth in all its glory as a little ball flying around back there in space. And we've got the moon and its gigantic craters covering almost the entirety of its surface. We have the moon also entirely lit up by the sun that is far back in the distance, far beyond the moon, and we are on the dark side of it, right? But still, it's nice and lit up. So, it's science. We can't understand these things. They're far beyond our comprehension. It takes theoretical astrophysics to find out why that side of the moon is lit up while the sun is far off yonder.
Graham Hancock, he studies like ancient civilizations.
Okay.
Ancient civilizations, and he has a theory that a whole bunch of these ancient civilizations that are super advanced before is just buried over, and we're missing like maybe 80% of the world's history because it just got buried over.
Damn.
Now, what's crazy, like an insane coincidence, he went one time to climb the Pyramid of Egypt.
Yeah.
Continuing, I wanted to warn you guys, their phones were being spied on. Click on this icon, then on more. If you see it, delete it immediately. And when he did it, it was like illegal. But he did it anyways, and he snuck in. Went to the very top. What he found at the top, crazy. He found an initial carved into the stone.
What was it?
It was P. Hancock, and then a date from like 19, maybe in the 50s.
That name sounds so familiar, P. Hancock.
So that name is of his great-great-grandfather that climbed the pyramids way long time ago.
Whoa.
That was, but he never knew like he was there, and they just happened to both climb it.
Damn.
Alien Species Part 1. So I hadn't heard of these guys before. They're called the Apunians, and they're from the Alpha Centauri system. And they pretty much look like humans. They're kind of like the typical Nordic alien, and they're anywhere from 7 to 12 feet tall. They were first reported in the Peruvian Andes by the Quechua people in the 1950s, when many of them became contactees. The Apunians follow the cosmic law of one and are aware of a higher self and what lies beyond our physical reality. And they've also spoken about over 1 million different civilizations that they know of throughout the universe. They're also quite humanitarian as well, and consider themselves brothers and sisters to all. And they became known for helping out and healing sick people throughout the impoverished regions of Peru, and just making life better for people that they interacted with. And by all metrics, they are much more technologically advanced than us. Beyond being able to control the weather and travel interstellar distances, they have things like levitation devices to look forwards and backwards into time, which can also look forwards and backwards into time on entire planets or within individual people. They can also generate this space-time bubble that's called a Zendra, which allows them to communicate interstellar distances with other civilizations throughout the universe. And they're also telepathic and have psychokinetic abilities, so they can move objects with their mind. So that's what's up with the Apunians. Let me know if you want to hear a part 2 about different alien species.
That's interesting. Sometimes when I'm walking in the store or something, sometimes I feel like the people that are next to me just aren't human. They act a little different.
Alien Races Part 2, the Mantis Beings. So these guys are like giant praying mantis insectoid beings. They're said to be about 6 to 7 feet tall, with thin torsos, spindly limbs, triangular shaped heads with these large black bug eyes. But they're not really bugs, because they only have 4 limbs, and they also don't have an exoskeleton. However, they do move in these jerky insect-like motions, which is definitely creepy. These mantis beings have also been reported by contactees in many alien abduction scenarios. And those who have encountered these beings say they're highly intelligent, they're also telepathic, but seem emotionally detached. And they're often seen working in conjunction with the gray aliens, and seem to be the ones in charge of everything. Others have also said that they can shapeshift or make themselves look human to blend in. And they also have the ability to cloak or turn invisible. Now, their origins are shrouded in mystery, but there are some theories about them. Some believe that they're interdimensional rather than extraterrestrial. Others think that they're just observing humanity's development over time, but others think they also might be guiding our evolution. However, others think they may have sinister intentions as well. So that's what's up with the mantis beings. Leave a comment with your thoughts below, and let me know if you want to hear a part.
That thought right there is kind of disturbing to me. I mean, it really is, just to think that those things even exist, which is possible.
I don't think you're ready for this one. This is Alien Races
Another one.
Part 3, the Pleiadians. So these guys are typically what we refer to as the Nordics, and they're said to be this benevolent species of extraterrestrials that visit Earth a lot, and they've been guiding us for millennia. And you pretty much can't tell the difference between them and us. They could be walking around us and you wouldn't know it. Except, on average, they're taller. The females are between 6.5 to 7 feet tall, and the males are between 6.5 to 8 feet tall on average. And they have these uniquely colored eyes, long blonde hair, and they live for 1,000 years. Many think that ancient myths of sky gods or angelic beings point back to early encounters with these Pleiadians. And even today, people are still reporting them, with the 1950s and 60s having a big uptick in the number of people reporting encounters with them all around the world. Now, we call these beings Pleiadians because they're from the Pleiades star system, some 444 light years from Earth, but according to several contactees, their home planet is called Era, which orbits the star Taygeta. So they refer to themselves as the Erins or the Taygetans. And according to experiencers who have interacted with them, they're said to follow the cosmic law of one. And they also believe that all intelligent life in the universe shares a common ancestor. They're also part of the Galactic Council and participate in the Melchizedek Starseed program, meaning that some Pleiadians incarnate their souls on Earth, so some of you out there could be a starseed. And we always get the question, why don't these beings help us directly? Well, much like in Star Trek, there is apparently a kind of prime directive that says they can't interfere with developing civilizations, but they can send their starseed souls to help guide humanity from within and kind of in the background. Are you a starseed? Leave a comment and let me know what you want to hear about next.
Let me know what you guys think about all these different types of possible aliens. Sorry about that. But I find it interesting and fascinating, but I don't see how they think that they might not be helping us. They could have been helping us all along. Who knows? Or they could be here to help us now.
I just received a letter from the state stating that the water in our city is not safe, that there are high levels of PFAS that can cause cancer, thyroid issues, not able to handle diseases, your immune system cannot react. So basically, you guys know that I'm starting a garden this year, which means I have to get reverse osmosis on the entire house, because if you're watering your plants with this water, it's the same thing as drinking the water. We do have reverse osmosis on the drinking water that we currently have, but we have been cooking with some of the water. The schools have shut down all the water. We just got a letter today.
Hold on a second. If they're putting things into our skies and we're seeing blue rain, purple rain, and just all kinds of weird things, then none of our water is safe. And it sounds like they're going to get us one way or another.
This is a letter that was sent home from the school district, and I mean, you can pause it and read it. The reverse osmosis system is around 2 grams, but it's like the fact that this is the country that we live in, we can't even grow our own freaking produce because the water that we're using, it'll literally absorb into, it's so bad for you. I'm going to make a whole video explaining exactly what is going on with our water, but I recommend that you go on to one of the websites and check your city, because it is super bad, and it's a forever chemical that never leaves your body. Never.
I don't think that it can't be in the sky. I'm telling you. They could be coming all the way around us in the drinking water and in the sky.
You've heard the theories. The old railroads were not laid, but they were dug up. Look at this big old pile of dirt. I can't help but notice all the pickaxes and shovels for digging. A pickaxe isn't a very useful hammer. Wait a minute, is this tunnel still half buried? Katya, where's that rail track going? Now I'm no scientist, but why is the dirt still flush and level with the railroad ties? Okay, looks like this one is in construction, but where is this railroad going? Into the dirt? Wait a minute, train cars full of dirt and a big old mound of dirt along the sides of the tracks? Reminds me of all these old world buildings that were dug out of the ground. Entire cities under entire cities. You ever wonder, why are there tops of windows on the ground? Yeah, tops of windows on the ground. Makes you wonder how tall these buildings really were. I watched a gentleman's video on this topic, and he said that the old westerns, it was always about constructing the railroad, as if they were programming it into the minds of the people. Oh, I've been working on the railroad all the live long day. They just didn't tell you that working on the railroad was taking big old mounds of dirt and displacing it to reveal tracks beneath.
I don't understand on some of that, because the dirt laying next to the railroad would be where they leveled the ground to put the railroad in. So I'm not too sure if that proves anything.
There is a monster living in West Virginia. For decades, residents of Boone County have spoken of an unknown and terrifying beast that lurks in the forests. Meet the sheep squatch. Also known as the white thing. This cryptid is described as being the size of a bear, covered in white woolly fur. It has a long pointed head with saber-like teeth in its mouth and ram's horns on its head.
That would scare the hell out of me if I ever saw something like that while I'm out in the woods. I don't know what I would do.
Those who have seen this creature have said that it can move on 4 legs, or 2, which makes it stand well over 6 feet tall. Now, sightings of sheep squatch date back to at least the early 20th century, maybe even before, but the 1990s saw a big flap of sightings, such as one in 1994, when a former Navy seaman witnessed the sheep squatch barreling out of a forest and into a creek bed to drink some water. And in the following years, several motorists would see sheep squatch standing in the ditches on the sides of roads, and it would occasionally jump out to attack cars. One of the more harrowing encounters in recent years, however, happened in 1999 when a couple of people were camping one night in Boone County in the woods behind their house. They started to hear something large scuffling and snorting around the campsite. The campers thought it was a bear, which is concerning, but when it charged out of the darkness at them, they could see that it was something else entirely. The campers then fled immediately to their house, being chased by sheep squatch until the tree line. And as they made it inside, they could hear the beast let out this terrible scream before seeing it head back into the woods. The following morning, they went back to the campsite only to find it torn up, looking like it had been tilled for gardening. But what do you think? Make sure to leave a comment and let me know what cryptids you want to hear about next.
That's the first time I've ever heard of a creature like that. Sheep squash, I think is what he said. If I would have seen something like that, I know what I would do. I would probably have to change my underwear, but I would be running, and I don't think that I would look back. That's pretty scary. But anyways, that's another video. I enjoy watching videos with you guys. If you enjoy watching the videos, please subscribe and like the channel. Until next time, and we're going to start uploading a video at least once a day. Some of them are just going to be watch videos, but we're going to create a lot of videos like this as well. I hope you enjoyed. Have a good day, stay blessed, and stay safe from all the storms.